Part 3, Chapter 4, Old Vengeance. The enemies you have amassed over the eons is impressive, Ravania. Medina to Ravania, decades ago. Vindar, Second Galaxy. Ravania gripped tightly the hilt of her flaming sword and glared at her Prosathian opponents. There was an unnerving calmness to each of them, and the taller of the two chuckled through the mask he wore. "You will not get away with it this time, Ravania," the man growled. "Too long have you escaped the justice that you so rightly deserve. You killed our lord and master." "He tried to kill me first," Ravania responded. "He was a mere cuckold for you. You would not accept him as your husband proper, so he had to resort to desperate measures to gain what was rightfully his." "This is what you believe?" Ravania asked. "This is what is true!" was the snarled response. The Prosathian then motioned with his head as his companion surged toward Ravania. The man was quick, his sword strikes vicious and focused. Ravania danced back from the man as he attacked. Out the corner of her eye she noticed Nell engaged with his two opponents. The moment of distraction almost cost her her life as the taller Prosathian surged toward her, noting her lack of focus. The shorter of the two was swinging with his sword for Ravania's head, while the taller was directing his blade for her heart as he charged. Ravania twisted away with barely enough time, but still felt a blade bite into her arm, slicing her flesh and releasing silvery red blood. The last of the Amara took a battle stance, her sword in front of her, and narrowed her eyes at the two fools of the Zaku cult. The tall enemy chuckled.
"Ah, the precious blood of Ravania."
His voice turned to a growl as he said,
"It falls to the filthy ground where it belongs."
Then the assassins were leaping forward again, attacking with violent zeal. Ravania danced back and forth with the impeccably trained foes, holding them back, but just barely. Nell swore as the stockier of his two opponents slipped past his defenses. This was the wounded guy, too, the guy Nell had blasted. He had a burn mark on his clothes. Flesh beneath was charred and exposed, but he fought on. Nell had the alien sword, but that hadn't been the only weapon in the assassin's arsenal, and he was quite capable with his laser blade dagger.
"You're too slow, Shadow Traveler,"
The thinner of the two chuckled, as his stocky companion faded back from Nell, who tried to strike out with the laser blade he'd taken.
"Too slow. Our master would have been a perfect companion and mate for Ravania, but she chooses you. Fool of a woman."
"Come on, guys," Nell said, wincing and glancing down at the gash on his left arm, before returning his blue eyes to the Prosathians. "I have my good points." These guys were fast. Nell never pretended to be the best fighter, but he had gained some skills over the eons and lives he'd lived. Prosathians weren't pushovers in any event, but this lot, they were strong, focused, and way too damn fast. Nell knew he couldn't hold them both off for long. He needed to do something drastic, and quick. As the stocky one leapt into the air, dagger arm raised for a strike, hurtling toward Nell, the Shadow Traveler threw caution to the wind and leapt at the alien's torso, catching him in a bear hug, still holding the laser blade, and driving the enemy to the hard street. Nell felt the dagger of the alien bite into his left side as they fell, but he took the hit, directing his laser blade behind the enemy's neck. As they landed on the ground, the back of the stocky Prosathian's neck landed on the laser blade, and he yelped as the light left his eyes. A solid kick hit Nell on the right side, and he tumbled up, off of his dead foe, into the air, flipping once before landing hard on the street. He grunted, feeling blood seeping from his wound, and he quickly clambered back to his feet. The laser blade was still gripped tightly in his right hand, and he glared as the thin Prosathian darted in at him, almost quicker than he could register. His sword flashed up, but he barely got it in place to block the enemy attack. Then, with a sharp movement to the right, it was knocked aside. As it went sailing, Nell felt a wash of energy being blasted away from his opponent. On reflex, he brought his arms up in front of himself and shielded his body with energy. The Prosathian power slammed into his shield and sent him flying backward, into the stone wall of the building. Nell grunted as he slammed into the solid surface, and he felt stone crack and give behind him. His eyes went wide and he twisted out of the way as the thin Prosathian slashed for his head, the laser blade cutting deeply into the wall. As the sword sunk deep, Nell stepped into an uppercut, catching the Prosathian on the chin and sending him tumbling backward. He backrolled, righted himself quickly, and glared at Nell from a crouch. His laser blade was still gripped in his hand. "Blast it," Nell growled, and he dove for the laser blade he'd lost, as his enemy leapt through the air at him. Nell tucked into a roll and was back on his feet with the blade in hand just in time to keep the opponent's weapon from sinking into his skull. The two warriors twisted away from each other, and the thin Prosathian tore back his mask, revealing his lizard face, a wide mouth, sharp teeth. Scars and tattoos of the Zaku cult marked his skin. He hissed at Nell and flicked a forked tongue. Nell recognized the alien. He'd been one of Zaku's aides back in the day. Once he'd been a prim, almost prissy bureaucrat. In some ways a buffoon. Statel? Nell asked in surprise. Even this man had been pulled into the frenzied cult of Zaku.
You die this day now, Sorrow!
The Prosathian roared. Then he was attacking Nell again, and the Shadow Traveler defended. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and there are more episodes on the way.